Well, so third time lucky, I guess, for me. But, let's see how this goes. So I love Kiev, first of all. Yeah. I'm going to say it's probably, let me think about this, 1, 2, 3, 6, my 12th favourite European, it's not even in Europe, it's my 12th favourite city in Eastern Europe. So there you go. That one went down well. As you remember from, before I start, so who wasn't here last year? Who hasn't seen me speak before? Okay, so just to get something clear and out of the way, my talks are very, very serious. They fucking are. They're very serious, very informative, heavy on the topic. No jokes, no memes, no slides, nothing like that. So there's lots of things that I love about Kiev. We went over this last year. There's obviously the elevator that goes to the center of the earth. There's the accessibility ramps. Yeah, they need some work. There's some lovely lakes. And features in the land. But, we've gone over this before. There's obviously this shit. Evil shit. I'm going to talk about this later. So, I love RubyC. For some of you that have seen me before, it's great to see you all again. For those of you that haven't, I'm sorry in advance. For those of you that have, you can see that my appearance has changed slightly since last year. These are some real comments that people have said to me since I arrived in Kiev. You look tiny. Did you shrink? It's like, for fuck's sake. I changed my fucking hair and my beard, not my body. Justin Bieber's hair suits you well. What the fuck happened to your face? Fuck. But the main reason why I had to change my appearance is because Google used my fucking image in their fucking advert without asking my permission. And frankly, I've got fucking sick of everybody telling me that I'm in the Google advert. My mum, my dad, my fucking brothers, my sisters, everybody I know has fucking told me about this. I know I look like this dude. So it's interesting, the layout we've got here. This is the first conference room I've spoken to that has actual latency, depending on which end of the room you're in. So over here, they're about 15 milliseconds behind, so they're going to laugh a bit slower, and so are you guys over here. As you get further out, obviously, the latency increases. You get to about 100 milliseconds up the other end. So if you just hear them laughing randomly, then, that's cool. And, of course, at the end, you've got about 16 years, which was probably the last time this hotel was called fashionable. We obviously had to change venue last year to a bigger venue, which is a great thing. Obviously, not so great for me because, next year I'm fucking flying business. I'm getting paid for coming. I'm getting a fucking portion of the ticket price. Yeah. Gonna have to lament the passing of Mr. Cat, my favourite pizza restaurant in the whole of Kiev. But we've got a good backup. We've got the sushi bar. Oh shit, yeah, the sushi bar. Because of course, who doesn't like to finish off a load of sushi with a beer? Nobody. One thing that was great about last year that I missed this year is the the dog shit that looks amazingly like a poop emoji. But you see that? I did that. I drew that, just in case you're not clear. It's still better than the Google emojis, isn't it? Right. So this hotel's got a swimming pool. So I thought, you know what? I could do with a swim. I'm going to go for a swim. So I walked through the car park, past all this bullshit. Can someone explain this shit to me? Now, I'm not sure how this is going to go down, but I mean, somebody put a picture of a slide with a cucumber with a dick, so I think anything fucking goes now. maybe this is some kind of weird fucking anomaly for me, but this reminds me of this. It does, right? It does. Is it just me? Okay. I mean, we have problems with parking in the UK as well. You know. But anyway, back to the story. So I was going to the swimming pool, and then I'm walking along, and then I find a fucking speedboat in a car park because, you know, where else are you going to keep your fucking speedboat? Okay. And then I get to the pool. Well, let me tell you, it's not like it is in the fucking brochure. Right. Okay. All right. So I thought I'll go to the other end, see what's going on up there. Yeah. Not much better. But, fucking believe this, there is fucking fish in the fucking pool. So I get up close, and I see one of them. But you know, I've fucking walked all the way there. I've gone past the fucking rhinos, the fucking speedboat. And I'm thinking, I didn't come all this way to not swim in this pool. So I had a little dive. I came out. And I was fucked. Right. So we were on the way down here in the... there is a talk later on, by the way. So yeah, just bear with me. So we were on the way down here, and we were in a taxi, and we're going along, and of course we're in traffic because, you know, traffic in Kiev. And I noticed this dude up here. That's a fucking person, right? Like, what the fuck? So, it's a fucking person. So, like, I don't know, like, I wish I could have heard what was going on up there. But I didn't, so I made up my own shit. Are you ready? So this guy is saying, like, it's... It's okay. Come back. I promise, just get this one bug fixed and we'll rewrite the whole thing. And the other guy's like, no, I would rather die. So I've got some good news, like, that happened in my personal life as well. So in September, I got married. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I know what you're all thinking, right? Lucky girl. But of course, the news of this travelled pretty fast around the world. And I mean, you know, it caused some problems. This guy in particular. So, you know, I understand, like, if you came here to see me thinking that something was going to go down, you can leave now. It's okay. You'll get your ticket refunded. So Andy, if you know, Aaron. No? Okay, cool. But I've still got my Apple Watch from last year. You may be glad to know, for those of you that know about these things. Still having some trouble with it. Yeah. It's not really working out how I thought it would. Yeah, you know, technology is tough. So yeah, last night we went out and we had a few drinks and, you know, whatever else. And so anyway, so it's fucking weird, this room. So it's like, I feel like a fucking shamu, you know, the big whale at SeaWorld. So like the middle people are going to get wet. Actually, no, that's really weird, isn't it, saying that? The middle people are going to get covered in splash. No, that's really weird. Oh, forget it. That was a really shit fucking idea. Right, so the title of the talk is called FOSS Like a Boss. So, of course, you understand the acronym, which is like free and open source software. And, of course, the free part I'm not necessarily so interested in. The free as in, you know, like freedom. Free as in speech, not free as in beer. And, of course, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and use a shitty mnemonic because, you know, when you're proposing talks, it needs to be snappy and stuff. And OS like a boss didn't sound so great. And OS like something else that rhymes with OS. Anyway, I'm wandering on. So yeah, I'm not so necessarily interested in the free part of open source software, especially not this guy's ideas of software, although this is definitely somebody I respect massively. So I'm going to start off with a question. Put your hands up if you use open source software. And I'm expecting everybody to put their hands up. Okay, all right. There's one person there that didn't. So, and again, Put your hands up now if you've ever contributed to open source software in any kind of form, whether it's code, commits, or you've donated to software, or, I don't know, you've spoken about it at a conference or something. All right, cool. So it's a good sort of like, bit more than that. So I'm going to try and enumerate the reasons why you should contribute to open source software, why I think it's important. And I thought I'd start by busting some jargons. So I'm going to say what they say, but what they actually mean. So one of the things that a lot of people say is that, yeah, you're going to contribute to open source software and it's going to raise your public profile, your brand. But what they really mean is that you're opening yourself up to criticism by absolutely entitled assholes who you'll never meet in real life. Number two, yeah, you get to travel the world, speak at conferences because, you're working on your personal brand. People start to recognize who you are. They ask you to speak at conferences and things like that. Yeah. So that's months of talk preparation, airports, jet lag, airports. Nadia, sorry, Nadia. Is she here? Let's get this slide off the screen quick. All right. And altruism, so sometimes people just do things for the benefit of humankind, not to kind of satisfy any needs of their own. And the dictionary definition of this is the principle or practice of unselfishness. But what they really mean when they say that is that you're going to provide critical components to businesses making millions of dollars from your software for absolutely fuck all. And of course, there's the whole GitHub as your CV thing, which, unless you're... If you're of this world, you will understand that is the biggest heap of bullshit ever. So I know what you're thinking, right? I'm meant to be encouraging contributions, of course, right? I mean, I could just do like Dimitri did and just end my talk there. I said earlier, I think he was keeping his slides in MongoDB or something because half of them went missing. So one of the problems with open source software is that there is a small kind of core collective of maintainers that maintain all of the pieces of critical infrastructure that we use and rely upon every single day. And for these people, the weight on their shoulders means that this is not sustainable. And people are getting burnt out, and they're quitting open source software. And there's a problem of entitlement in open source software. This is a quote from Bojidar, number 2 most fashionable Rubyist. The users act like customers, but they're not customers. And there's this saying, the people that pay the least expect the most, and it's no more apparent in open source software. And I think that's wrong. And they're making money from our free time. So this is a maintainer. If you're a maintainer of a popular open source project, you're going to understand this. There's a fucking huge wasteland behind you, and you're right in the middle of it. And this is another maintainer, like a co-maintainer, if you like, somebody that commits to your project. And there's another one, and it's a living hell. And this is your user. Fucking nirvana. Everything is beautiful. Literally, the cows shit chocolate bars. But this user is still not happy with that. No. Your software doesn't do what I want it to do. And for that, you should feel bad. And of course, there's another one, and there's more, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. So we're going to try and make open source software great again. That's Donald Trump there. Yeah. So there's an arse, and there's a hat, and there's a arse hat. And of course, basically, Trump is what would happen if the comment section became a human and ran for president. We've got a street in London named after Donald Trump, which I thought was quite cool. And one thing I noticed the other day, so I'm kind of going through my wallet, and I think to myself, oh, I see a 100 note, and alarmingly, oh shit, I'm like, what? Now, where have I seen this person before? It bears more than a passing resemblance. I hope I haven't offended anybody with this. If I have, then, well, you're fucked, basically, because it's going to get a lot worse. So I did the whole OSS for America. You know, I was ripping off slogans, and I thought I'd try a face swap with this guy. Didn't quite work out. I don't know if you can see where the face ended up. It's like in the horse's balls, which kind of like was a bit weird for me because that doesn't really look like a face. So I think there needs to be some kind of algorithmic tuning going on there. It's not a good place to be down there. So I was giving this talk in America recently, and somebody pointed this out. There was a petition in the White House to, I don't know if you can see this so well, to outlaw programming languages that threaten the safety of American people and counter to our way of life. And the three that they listed was JavaScript, and let's just say JavaScript's number one here, all right? Ruby is number two, because it was built by communists or something. And Java's number three. And it got fucking... Well, actually, no, it got 81 signatures, so all's well. I don't think this petition is going to be the demise of Ruby. I think that responsibility lies on DHH, to be honest. So another thing is open source software and open source contributions is something that other people just do, right? For most of us that haven't got the time or the inclination to do this kind of stuff just happens. Great, you know, we get free and regular upgrades to our software, features just get added, and we can take advantage of this. I know I used to feel like that before I got into open source, but there's a bit of a story time. So some of you might remember last year, about this time last year, I was actually teaching at a boot camp. So I was teaching a class of 8 students, and of kind of varying backgrounds and varying experience in software. None of them, like universally, none of them had committed to open source software before. And we were going through one of the exercises in the classroom, and one of the students said to me, "Oh, so the guy's looking through the documentation, and he's looking at this particular method in the Ruby core library." He's like, "Well, you know, the documentation doesn't actually match the behavior of the thing." So I was like, "Okay, right, well, we can fix this." And he's like, "What?" And it was really like a bolt out of the blue to this guy. He said, yeah, we can fix this. We can just, open up the editor, fork Ruby. He's like, "What?" And it's literally like you can see his mind blowing, like the kind of sense of empowerment that gave him. Now, he clarified the documentation, and let me just say as well that anybody that thinks documentation commits to open source projects are like an easy way in, it's complete bullshit. You can ask any maintainer here of any popular or unpopular open source library if they ever reject documentation fixes or even new documentation, because almost universally, all of the projects that you see are under-documented. So anyway, getting back to the story. This guy opens this pull request, and okay, it's Ruby. So about 6 years later, it eventually gets committed. And this taught this guy a really valuable lesson. The kind of sense of the personal empowerment that you kind of own the environment that you work in, and you own the tools, and you own the language and the framework, and you can contribute to it, however large or small you think that contribution is. It's important because what will happen is somebody will come along to that piece of code and see that the behavior matches and won't have this indirection like we did for half an hour trying to figure out what was going on. This is a really great thing. So, between now and then, I've worked for the UK government. So here's a picture of me on my first day at work. Looking pretty suave. We don't actually bring guns into work because it's not America. Then I moved to the Treasury. So this is me on my first day of work at the Treasury. So one of the problems with governments is that we generally build software projects like this. There was a project that I won't name recently that got shit-canned. The expected cost of it was £2.3 billion, which is a lot of money in the real world. The actual cost of it was £12 billion, and then it got canned. So none of that saw the light of day. Think of all the things you can buy with £12 billion. So one of the great things open source software is doing at the moment in governments is empowering this thing we call digital transformation. And this is something that's happening worldwide. Traditionally, governments get locked into these really stupid bullshit procurement practices where they buy a piece of shrink-wrap software from a vendor, pay way over the odds for it, get locked into a 2-year contract, and get stuck with a piece of shit that nobody wants to work with. This is happening around the world. So you've got 18F, which is the American version of this, which I thought was quite funny because when I was Googling for their logo, it came up with this, which probably says everything you need to know about America. Now, of course, the Ukrainian government have got their own digital transformation going on. So this was a Ukrainian programmer a few days ago. So like he's having a good time. I got it right then. So he's a typical programmer. He's hacking away. He's there. You can see he's using Emacs there as well. So they're going through their own digital transformation. They've just replaced these with these. One step at a time. They're using PHP a lot more nowadays. And suddenly, all the stories come together because this guy, it suddenly makes sense. So anyway, getting back to this story about government and open source. So one of the things we do, we open source everything. Everything is open by default, which is brilliant. So if you go onto my GitHub profile, you can see all of the shit that I do and get paid for. It's hilarious. But one of the great things is when people take open source software and repurpose it for means that you didn't expect. So this was a co-worker of mine, a junior developer for GovUK, and somebody actually took the GovUK like kind of style guide, templates, and all of that stuff, and repurposed it for the dark side, like first order. And it's really great. Like the pages are like exactly the same. So it's on the left, like this describes, what the cabinet office does, and on this side, it describes what the imperial forces do. And I thought that was quite fun. So you could ask what actually is a contribution. So how would you define a contribution to open source software? So practically, really, it's whatever GitHub says. For those of you that don't know what GitHub is, I'm sure you do. I completely lifted this off of the internet somewhere. I thought it was quite funny. So the pull request is the e-note sent to the original code writer requesting edit rights. You could not have got it more fucking wrong at all. But anyway, so one of the things that will give you your little kind of green check mark, on your timeline is opening issues, right? So you can see here, this was my timeline a while ago, and there was an empty square there. And if you open an issue, that classes as a contribution. This is great. So if you want to raise your open source, your public profile, and you want to get lots of green ticks, just go around all the big open source projects telling them they suck, right? Don't do that. And if you do, don't say, I told you to, okay? This was on my own project. This is me having a conversation with myself. In fact, a co-worker sent me a message saying, are you okay? Like, you just send yourself a message saying you suck. He's like, is everything all right with you? He put his hand on my shoulder. I was like, yeah, it's cool, don't worry. And that was in between the time when I actually closed it and said it was for a talk. So yeah, so you get your little green checkbox, which is great. Brilliant. We are all open source professionals, regular contributors. What's going on here? Right. So, it's my arse. It's giving off a charge. Okay, cool. So closing issues, unfortunately, don't do the same thing. So, but if you think about the actual kind of the mental investment in actually closing an issue. So if somebody raises an issue, like a bullshit issue on your open source project, saying, you suck, I hate this project, it doesn't do what I want it to do, you need to read that, you need to parse it, you need to internalize it, and then you need to take all the effort of closing that issue, but you don't get anything on your contribution graph for doing that. So that kind of sucks. I think that should change. One of the things you can do, though, is give thanks, and it's definitely something that we don't do enough. We just take so much for granted that's out there. And I saw this, and it really stuck with me. And this is exactly how people are on the internet. If you like something, you don't feel the need to tell anybody. But if you don't like something, oh, you suck, I hate you. So in the same vein as opening the whole you suck and you should feel bad for it, you can actually say thanks. You can open issues on projects to say thanks. And you might think, well, okay, that's kind of a misuse of the issue system, but you know what? I would ask any maintainer here if they would rather you not say thanks in this means and actually have them close the issue, which is going to take just a few moments of their time. And in a sea of bullshit and noise, you know, just those little beacons of thanks really stand out. And there you go. You know, you get your little green tick. So everything's great. I really believe in this. When people say thanks for things, you know, in an otherwise sort of fucking desolate landscape of bullshit and anger and hatred, one person says thanks and it undoes a whole pile of that. And I would charge anybody to disagree with that. So, there's an issue with the timeline and what the timeline means to different people. And there's like, you know, these things are appearing everywhere. And then you get people like my buddy, Constantine, some of you might know him, from Travis and Sinatra, you know, that's literally like full on, constantly contributing software, constantly working on open source software. You might notice there was one day there actually where nothing happened, and that kind of made me a bit fucking angry, but actually a little bit scared as well. So I asked him what happened. Like, were you stuck somewhere? Were you underground? Like, what went down? And he said to me, as you know, as only Constantine could. I thought that was pretty cool. So there's a lot of stuff around the kind of gamification of the timeline, and there's no doubt that just having that there as a reminder to you, and having the streak there as a reminder to you as well, was something that would egg you on to commit. It is nice, if you're even mildly OCD, to have all of the green things line up nicely, and when you see the ones missing, it was kind of disturbing. So recently there's been a bunch of changes to GitHub that happened fairly quietly, I guess you'd say, and they removed the streaks. I don't know if anybody noticed that recently. They also enabled a flag on your profile to highlight private contributions as well, so contributions that happen in private repositories. So now the timeline is even more meaningless. And hopefully it will stop things like this, you know. So I completely lifted this off somebody's Twitter, but yeah, you know, maybe you should find some other hobbies. It seems like you might benefit from getting out there and meeting people, which is true. So one thing you can do, this isn't going to be one of those talks where I enumerate all of the different ways you can, all of the different projects you can contribute to. If you want to get into open source, if you've never actually done any kind of work in open source, if you've never committed anything to open source, and you want to actually commit code, then sure, come and speak to me after. I can give you a few pointers to projects that are going to be amenable to you. One thing you can do is help with open issues. So you're going to look at any kind of popular open source library and see that most of them have tens, if not hundreds, of open issues. Just going through those and triaging issues, finding out which ones have been resolved and closing those, even just picking up small things and helping out could make a huge bit of difference to an open source maintainer. A great thing you can do is actually donate money. So somebody yesterday mentioned about donations to open source software, and that you're never going to make any money from open source software. Well, of course, you're probably not going to make a kind of full-time living from open source software. But you can make something that makes up for at least some of your time spent on your projects. Writing books. Yeah, okay, maybe that might work in the short term, but I don't know about you, but if you've ever written or contributed to a book, it's a long fucking hard slog. Like, you could probably rewrite Rails in the time that you finish a book, if you're anything like me anyway. By the way, I've never finished a book, So, to put my money where my mouth is, I wanted to promise some of my own money in charitable donations to open source projects. So I pledged to donate £207.14, or rather 7,500 hryvnias to open source projects. So if you're a maintainer of an open source project, or if you feel that there is a project that you feel is in need of contribution financially, or you would like to see some money go to it, then please tweet me and send me a link to the project, and I will make sure that happens. So you're going to find some projects are not set up to take donations. If that's the case, then you can ask them to do that, and very rarely are they going to say no. This was the Hanami project, which was previously Lotus. I asked them if they could set something up to take donations. A few days later, they were taking donations, and they've took quite a reasonable amount of money so far. So, you know, a lot of these people are too humble to ask for money. But if you give them the opportunity to take it, then they will. Some of you might know Nick Sutterer. I thought long and hard about this because giving Nick money is basically going to end up like this. But anyway, regardless, I asked him. He said he's going to set up some kind of plan of sponsorship. So that's great. You know, you should try to support these people that are building software that you use daily. Of course, there are organizations like Ruby Together, like really great organizations that have been set up to deal with this kind of stuff as well. And you can funnel money through them as well. One of the other things you can do in open source is outreach. So some of the big projects have trouble with kind of like PR and just outreach and getting the message out there and getting people seeing and understanding and using their libraries. And it brings me back to a time when I first started using Celluloid and JRuby, and this was kind of like my first intro into speaking in the Ruby community. I'd spoken in the Microsoft community before. You can imagine how that went down. So I spoke at, what was it, Uruco in 2013. It was a great talk and lots of fun, and if you want to learn an open source project or if you want to learn a language or framework or any kind of technology, I would suggest that you propose a talk to it, get the talk accepted, and then realize, fuck, I'm talking about something I know nothing of. Anyway, so I was looking through this. So I was going through and I was getting the screenshot of this, and then like I saw a comment under there that somebody left. There's this guy. I don't know, it kind of like got me, and it sort of, it's funny because it's really topical to this conversation because it's basically somebody that is criticizing me for giving up my own time and energy in producing something that I thought would help people out. And he says, I love Ruby and I like Celluloid, but I feel meaningless words coming forth. I was kind of a bit upset by that. So I kind of stalked this guy on the internet. You know, I wanted to get his home address so I could just go around there and kick his door in, but I decided not to. So I read this, and it meant nothing to me at all. So there's a bunny with a pancake on its head. But I responded in a very serious way. He spelled speech wrong, and he's a poopy head. He replied to me. I didn't put the reply up because it made me feel like a bit of a dick, actually, because he backtracked and said sorry, and, you know, I was just trying to give you some valuable criticism and stuff. But anyway, outreach is something that you can do. Of course, there's documentation fixes, and as we said, you know, the documentation fixes are meaningful, and they are a very easy way into open source. And some of the kind of, I guess you'd say, the most prolific contributors to open source today started off by doing documentation. People like Steve Klabnik, Richard Schneeman, people like that was working on the Doc Rails and the Doc Ruby projects. That's how they got into open source software, and look at what they're doing today. And of course, code merged to master counts as a contribution. And while I said that I wasn't going to suggest any libraries or frameworks in need of urgent assistance in the open source community, I hear that the Node.js community are looking for a new left pad library. This is a tough crowd, man. In America, people were falling off their seats at this, but then the head of the NPM package manager was sat in the front row of the audience, and I didn't actually know about it until after. So that was fun. So there's a quick checklist of things that you can do before you contribute to open source software. If you are committing code and it's a big feature, then before you spend all that time and energy and effort on something that may or may not get merged, you should check with the maintainer. It's really hard for a maintainer to go through something that's really well thought out, really well proposed, really well put together, and then just to say, sorry, but it doesn't meet the vision of the project, and I'm going to have to say no. Number 2 is read the fucking contributing markdown file, because it's going to stay some stuff in there. This particular project might have some kind of idiosyncrasies in how they accept code. I don't know, maybe they want you to use some kind of like different style of testing or something. It's worth just checking that first. understand that the likelihood is that the code will never be merged. So it's just an offering, you know. When you go through the review process, it can be hard. You know, sometimes like you working out there in the field, it can be tough. And I mean, you know, even for like evil dictators, sometimes, you know, adding action cable to rouse master, ready the nukes, it's time. Action cable, we could talk about that all day. So somebody recently said, I think it was Katrina Owen, who said that contributing to open source software, opening a pull request is like giving someone a puppy. So what does that mean? Well, you know, when you give someone a puppy, it's great. You know, you've got this lovely, cute little thing, and like, this is me giving it to you. I'm done with it. Literally, the moment it leaves your hands, it shits everywhere, it throws up, it eats your sofa. You know, so this is the thing. So there's parallels here with open source software. So you open a pull request. Once the maintainer merges your code, it's forever then their responsibility, right? So if you look at it as a timeline, your responsibility lies from here to here. Theirs is from here to infinity. And that's something that's worth understanding. So another thing, if you're actually waiting for your code to be reviewed, I know what it's like when you build something, you submit a pull request, and you're sat there and you think it's going to be dealt with immediately, and it's going to get merged, and you're going to be famous. Don't do that. If you're going to wait for if you need to wait for it to be reviewed, there's one thing that you definitely do not need to do. And that's don't incessantly ping the maintainer. It's the most fucking annoying thing, and it's the most pointless act ever. If you see something that you like in an open source project, great. You know, the likelihood is that given a few moments, it's going to get merged. So, of course, GitHub recently added the emoji reactions to things, but of course, you know, they're kind of being co-opted as the kind of review process. But one problem at the moment with the emoji reactions in GitHub is that you don't actually get notified of them, right? So whereas before, if somebody sticks a thumb as a comment on a pull request, it comes through as an email or however you get it. But in this approach currently, it doesn't do that. So there's been talks with people at GitHub to change that, or to try and figure out a way of at least turning that on in your profile to say if somebody puts a thumb on something or a thumbs down perhaps, maybe not for the other emotions, then send me a notification. So there was a pull request that I saw a while ago, and it was during the trouble that was going on here before. And it was just the single best comment I've ever seen on a pull request ever. So I don't know if you can see this because it's pretty low down, but I'll read it. I would have loved this guy to have been in the audience today because I would have shook him by the hand. I will take a look later, much, much later, because I'm Ukrainian and we have a revolution right now. Sorry. I thought that was great. I could just picture him, you know, like the person who's like submitted the pull request, like, yeah, submit the pull request, and then the guy's like, yeah. All right. Okay, you'll be glad to know we're kind of getting to the final stages of the talk now. So this is the bit where I try and rationalize everything that I've randomly stuck together. So my main point that I want you to take away here is that the software maintainers of the big projects, even the small projects, you know, the people that are providing the critical infrastructure that we use every day are a scarce and dwindling resource. If we don't provide any value to these people, if we don't give thanks, if we don't make donations, you know, if we don't try and help out and even the load, then eventually these people are just going to go away. The idea of ever sustainable and free as in beer open source is complete bullshit to me. You know, working on things, some people are that dedicated, or, you know, some people have empty lives perhaps where they've not got any other responsibilities and they're happy to contribute code all day, every day without any kind of thanks. I don't think that's a sustainable model at all. So do give thanks if you can. Contribute by any means. And as I said earlier, just to wrap up, we needed to come back to this. So there are some people last year that did some very bad things to me. Yeah, I'm going to make you all stand up in a minute. You know who you are. I thought, like a problem shared is a problem halved. So I'm going to share this with you. I'm going to share what happened. I'm going to retrace my steps that night. And it started out pretty normal. Well, except for obviously a big row of fucking evil, toxic waste that was actually lit on fire before you drank it. So here's a piece of advice. If anybody ever lights a drink on fire before you have to drink it, don't fucking drink it. Because it's on fire. So, this was a few hours later. I don't know if there's already, this woman, she's fucking praying to something. Like, I don't know if you could see me there. I look like a tiny baby. So if you can see yourself in this picture, can you put your hand up? Yeah, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. No, keep them up, I've not finished. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Fuck all of you. So it got worse. So, yeah. So I tried to illustrate this, and this is exactly what happened. So I came outside because I was feeling like shit. So I came outside, then I went there for a while. Then I went there, I had a little sleep. Then the taxi came. Fucking threw up everywhere. The taxi wouldn't take me. Then the taxi did take me, and then I threw up again. And then I got back to my room, and then I woke up in the morning. And if you think that bed looks like it hasn't been slept on, it's because it hasn't. I slept in the fucking shower. And the towels were in the fucking bedroom. So if anybody fucking tries to buy me this tonight, you can go fuck yourself. Thank you. And just before I finish, I just want to remind you that if you've got an open source project or there's an open source project that you want me to donate to, then send me a tweet. Thanks again.
Okay, I think if someone have questions, maybe? Okay. Yeah, okay.
Ben, will you continue with the Green Mexican, make Mexican today?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah?
Yeah. Hiroshima. Oh. Oh, because naming something after a nuclear fucking war is good. That's what happened that night. Now it makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, no green Mexicans. What about B-52?
Again, why are all these things named after catastrophic events? Like, there's a fucking bomber plane, a fucking nuclear bomb. The fuck, man? I was drinking white Russians. I like drinking white Russians, which seems like a weird thing to ask for in Ukraine. Anyway.
Okay. Thank you, Ben, again.
Oh, wait. Okay.